Force Radio presents.
Last night, a Jedi was murdered.
She's killing Jedi.
I didn't do it! Believe me!
She was my student. I trained her. Now she is a student of the dark side.
This is a fight that you will not win.
The Jedi live in a dream, but an acolyte kills the dream.
This is Rebel Force Radio's The Acolyte After Show.
I mean, hey, is it just me, or is every episode of The Acolyte seem to either start or at some point have Osha or May waking up? It's just constant. They're constantly waking up from something. Waking up from a stun blast, waking up from a battle. Tell you what, I think Osha's so woke that she just can't stop waking up all the time. It's just... I've been workshopping that one today, people. I've been workshopping it. All right. Now, we're here to talk about of course, the Acolyte here, Rebel Force Radio and the Acolyte After Show. Great to be with you. Thanks for hanging out with us. We've got 32-minute episode. We'll get to it in the tail of the tape. About a 32-minute episode to talk about. So it should only take us about 2.5, 3 hours. I think we can knock this one out. Our after shows tend to be much longer than the actual show itself. We've got usually a lot to discuss, and this week will be no exception. Dialogue-heavy episode this week. Last week, big on action. This week, very heavy on dialogue, and I'm not hating it. I like meaty dialogue. I like getting inside the heads of these characters because up until this episode, I felt that I didn't really know what made any of them tick, really. So this episode, I think, peeled the curtain back a little bit, gave us a little better sense of the motivations of these characters. So we're going to get under the hood, as we always do here on the RFR After Show, here for the Acolyte, episode 5, episode 6, just 2 more to go. So if you're new to the program, welcome. We'd love to have you here as part of the Rebel Force Radio family of listeners. Introductions may be in order for some of you tuning in for the first time. If that's the case, my name is Jason, and with me, as always, my good friend and yours from Chicago, Jimmy Mack.
Hey, Jason. Hey, Star Wars fans. You caught me sleeping right there, but I violently woke myself up. Just shocked myself awake right there. Like, I guess May and Osha have done how many episodes now? 3?
I'm glad it's not just me noticing this.
I definitely noticed it. This episode, it really was noticeable. I think the first time happened aboard the Nemoidian starship in episode 1 when she was working as a mech. The second time happened at the start of episode 5 last week. The episode started with her waking up in the forest and the Jedi were fighting Qimir. And then this episode begins the exact same way. She awakens in Chimir's lair. Like, wow, at least she's getting her rest. I mean, that's important.
She's sleeping through the whole damn show.
She's missing a lot of good stuff. At least 3 times I could think of Osha, suddenly waking up, sitting up right away. Yeah, exactly.
That does seem to be one of those things that we see a lot in TV and movies. The sudden, they cut to a new scene and the character's waking up. It's a little overused, I would say.
Maybe, yeah. Well, it's definitely overused in The Acolyte, that's for sure.
Yeah, no doubt.
When these shows start repeating themselves, I get a little frosted by that. And this show it keeps repeating itself. Like Saul, how many times is he just about to spill the beans on what really happened on Brenda?
I was going to mention that. It is time I will tell you everything. And then something happens and it's like, it is time that I tell you everything. And then, something happens. Well, maybe they just keep getting interrupted, but you're so right about that.
Yeah. So, I mean, it just keeps repeating itself. Let's get to it. I think next episode, I was speculating this episode would have the flashback, but I believe it's next episode that's going to expose everything that went down. And then the following episode, the season finale, will be the aftermath of all of that.
Yes, yeah. Which is crazy because you would think that they would have a lot more to go to wrap this up unless they went into this thinking there was going to be a season 2, and maybe there will be a season 2. There's no definitive answer on that, though I have heard some people on, say, oh, there's definitely going to be a season 2, and some people are saying this show's got the worst ratings of any other Disney Plus show in history, and then this website says that it's the best show in the history of Disney Plus. I don't like these streaming. I really don't like the lack of transparency with these streaming numbers. It really does bother me.
Yeah, right.
I think that ratings hold. I think there's an accountability that comes with ratings. You're a radio guy. You've lived this your whole life.
Yeah, there is. You're right about that. The only thing I can do to gauge the popularity of individual Star Wars streaming shows is to look at the download numbers that accompany the after shows with each of these. And while I'm not going to make those numbers public, I can tell you that just by gauging them, you can clearly see which shows garner the most fan attention. Obviously, The Mandalorian is number 1, and Book of Boba Fett is number 2, followed shortly by Kenobi, and then Ahsoka and The Acolyte, pretty much tied at this point. And taking up the rear is Andor. That's just based on our own download metrics. That's sort of how I can rank the popularity of these shows. It's not exactly a scientific poll, but it's what we got. Those are the numbers we have at our fingertips. So
who knows? It could be one of the most accurate in terms of gauging. And maybe it's not about popularity so much, Jim, what people like, but what they want to hear about. And there's no question that this show has garnered a lot of publicity, probably more on the one side of the scale than the positive side of the scale. But hey, there's an old adage in PR, there's no such thing as bad press as long as they spell the name right. And everyone's spelling the name right on Acolyte.
Yeah, and everyone's talking about it, good or bad. That's always a positive. So
there's definitely cutting through the noise in pop culture, but it is also a little bit of a lull. It's a little bit of a downtime for Marvel and some of the other big franchises right now. Everyone's waiting for that Deadpool Wolverine movie coming out this summer, and that's going to be, I think, a huge pop. There'll be a lot of attention there. But right now, as far as big tentpole franchises, Star Wars is in the crosshairs for good or bad, and the Acolyte just happens to have the honors here. Let's get into the tail of the tape here. We are talking about episode 6. Episode 6. Teach. We're back to the forward / titles. We had a number of those in the beginning. Now we're back to them. This is Teach / Corrupt. And this is directed by Hanel M. Culpepper and Leslie Headland back with a co-writing credit along with Jocelyn Bio. And original air date, for those of you listening to this into the future, July 2nd, 2024, comes in sans end credits at just about 32 minutes and 42 seconds, a little longer than last week's episode. So there you got it, the tail of the tape. And I said at the beginning, first thing we see is Osha waking up. And something you had mentioned about the repetition and how it does repeat itself, whether it be these beats of Osha waking up or Saul telling Osha or Osha / May that he's going to come clean and tell her the truth. Here's where it gets tough for me. Maybe it's just me. The week-to-week nature of this, there's something about the character beats, there's something about the story beats, and the way they're cutting this show. And I don't mean the editing within the show itself. I'm talking about the way they've structured this episode to end, this episode to begin. Because of this repetition and other things, I am finding it a little bit hard to keep track of. Like, I feel the need to always rewatch the last episode before I go in to the next episode. The big moments are sticking for me, but there's a lot of small stuff that ends up coming up later that's not. So I am struggling. I don't think this is written well for the medium that it's being shown on, or how it's being shown.
Yeah, I think you'd like to see it more of an episodic thing with different chapters as opposed to something that honestly feels like it was shot all at once and then chopped into episodes.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so.
I get that vibe as well. I'm not digging the under 30-minute length of these episodes. You fail to immerse yourself in the story in such a brief period of time. I mean, this is sitcom running length, and,
Right.
and sitcoms are that long for a reason. You don't need to immerse yourself in it. You just need to go along the ride and have a few laughs and relax. This show requires your full attention. And while they do pack a lot into episodes like this, I mean, they did pack a surprisingly a large amount of info into this episode. It still feels like things are just getting going and those credits start rolling. And the way they cut this episode off specifically with her looking out the mask and everything, there should have been like maybe a fade to black or something before they rolled the credits. It did seem like somebody just went in there with a rusty razor blade and sliced it without even really looking. But that's, really nitpicking.
Sure,
Well,
sure.
the way they cut into the credits was so abrupt. Well, but we are along for this ride. And like I said, the immersion element of it is important to me. And I
Yeah.
felt like I was just getting into it when
Yeah.
that cut into the credits happened.
Someone said here on the chat, well, I like the runtime because that's what the runtime kind of Clone Wars was and that sort of thing. The difference for me is that I'm not, even though we've spent now 3 hours, I guess, of story time or better part of 3 hours with these characters, every episode takes me a little bit of time to get in the groove and get into following these characters and having some kind of care for them. And it feels like you were saying, as soon as I get into the pocket and I start feeling the story and getting into it, it's over. It's over. So I think it's maybe the characters just kind of aren't, or the storyline isn't necessarily sticking with me from week to week. There's something off about it. I can't put my finger on, but I do want to start out by asking, big question for me, what does Saul know about the switcheroo? When does he know it? I was wondering last week, like, if this guy doesn't know and this little rat has to be the one to tell him, or the pip droid or something like that, then my faith in him as a Jedi Master and a character, my favorite character of this show, and a favorite if I look across all of the Disney Plus shows, he's a favorite. I really love his performance. I really like the character, and if he turns out to be a big bad, I'll actually be very disappointed. But Jim, we see Saul and May, who he believes is Osha, we're led to believe he believes is Osha, interact quite a bit on the ship before he finally stuns her with the blaster, the stun blast, and says, "Oh, May," and now you realize that he knows it's May. What's your take on when he knew and how did he find out, or did he always know?
I'd like to think he always knew. He was just leading her on and getting her off that planet, because that was his goal in the first place, was to get May and bring her back to the Jedi. That was what he went out there to do. And he was using Osha as bait. So sometimes when you go fishing, you lose some bait, But it is hard to tell. With the presence of that little rodent, that Basil, and Pip the droid, it's possible one of those two could have communicated that information to Saul. But we never see that happen.
Off screen?
Right.
Oh.
Because that little rodent was always sniffing around, always sniffing. I'm like, what's the purpose of this character? He's constantly showing up. Yeah, thank you, Jason. That's add that to your Hall of Fame of Star Wars character impersonations.
Do the best.
Can we hear that one more time, ladies and gentlemen? Basil.
There you go.
Okay. I'll have the kibble ready for the next show. But you know what I'm saying? I think there has to be more of a purpose for this character being there.
Mm-hmm.
And he's done some shady things along the way. Like he disappeared from the Jedi when he was tracking Kelnaka. He disappeared. And is it a coincidence? He was the only one there at Kelnaka's lair when May arrived to find a freshly murdered Kelnaka.
Shady Saul.
Could this even Saul, but no, Saul was with the group. I'm
sorry, who are you talking about?
I'm talking about little Basil.
Basil. Wait a minute, what? Basil.
I am as serious as a heart attack on that.
Oh my gosh.
What is the purpose of Basil? He shows up constantly and he's always sniffing around. But I mean, there has to be some reason for this character to exist. We were led to believe it was to track Kelnaka, but he ditched the Jedi in the forest, and he was the only one there at Kelnaka's lair when May found Kelnaka dead. Could this, maybe I'm reaching, or maybe I've started partying for the Independence Day weekend a few days early.
No, I'm captivated. Come on, Uncle Jimmy, tell us this yarn about Basil, the Sith rat.
Could Basil be the master? A shape-shifting Sith Lord.
A shape-shifting, great shape-shifting Sith Lords, Batman. Man, I did not expect you to answer the question of what Saul knew and when with, I think that Basil, I think we're looking in the wrong place here. I think we got to look at him. Someone said, just stop with the beaver conspiracy. All right.
What's the deal with Basil? And how does he tie into the big story? I mean, let's face it, it's totally
what was his role in this? You're right. He pops up throughout this episode, but I never see him really do anything except stomp May on the foot and then get that thing to squirt in her face. Other than that, you don't see him reveal. The whole episode is set up as if he's trying to get to Saul to reveal to him that this is not Osha.
Yeah.
And it never happens. It's so bizarre.
We don't see that happen. So I almost want to rule Basil out as being the one who communicated to Saul that
the beaver is not a rat.
This is Star Wars. He might have some sort of relations with other star rats. But what's the deal with this guy? I don't think he told Saul. I think Saul knew. I think Saul always knew. I think he always knew. As a matter of fact, when he brought May in for that hug.
Yeah.
I thought he was going to start like patting her down for a wire, like this was an episode of Sopranos or something, because he brought her in like so abruptly and almost violently. It was a very quick embrace.
There are three moments that I counted where I thought he was. So, all right, I think he knew, but I think there's a moment when it's revealed to him, and it's definitely through the performance of Lee Jung-jae, who does a great performance in this episode. But there are three specific moments where he kind of, I think, telegraphs that he knows, but he's really trying to, like, obviously play that he doesn't. And one is when he says to May to take the wheel. She's got the dagger in her hand. She's going to come up and cut him. And he knows she's behind him, and he says, I'm gonna reset the transceiver, take the wheel. And then he goes away and he has this kind of meltdown. I mean, we've never seen a Jedi have this kind of a moment. And I loved it. He was crying. He was angry. He was pounding. Yeah. And then, and I wish I had the screen capture. I don't. I have one of him kind of being very emotional. But I don't know if you caught this, Jim. There's a moment when kind of serenity or acceptance comes over his face.
Absolutely.
And I was thinking that was the shroud of the dark side going up away from him. And that's the moment he realizes that that's not Osha, that's May.
Well, Jedi are supposed to bury those sort of emotional responses.
Yes.
And Saul struggles with that, obviously. He's very emotionally fueled. And it was great acting in that sequence from Li Zhang-Jie, because you saw over his face, he really was conveying those emotions.
Right.
He ran the gamut from anger to sadness. And then he pulls back and he's like, you could tell he's thinking, he's contemplating. And he goes into some hard grief. And then he's crying, and he finally just like bows his head in respect. And that might be the moment where you sort of felt like the shroud of the dark side was being lifted off of him. Or it could have been a moment when the shroud of the dark side was firmly wrapping itself around him.
Could be.
Yeah.
Because he opened himself up to those, those emotions, those feelings. But as I was just saying, so there were 3 moments. So one was take the wheel. That's when she was approaching him. There was another moment where the tension was building to where you thought that maybe she was going to attack him. And that's exactly what you said, Jim. He pulls her into a very forceful hug.
Yeah.
And there's a third time when he calls her in when after Basil, she has the little standoff with Basil, and that's when she I think she resets Pip. She does the old where you hold down the volume and the power button on your iPhone until you see the Apple logo, and that's also how you reset your Pip droid to factory settings. Well, have you ever seen it? Can you imagine doing that to like 3PO? Hold still. I'm gonna hold these 2 buttons down.
Well, 3PO just had a switch. Flip.
Right.
I love that scene in Empire Strikes Back when Leia turns him off and he's complaining and he's just out.
Don't you wish a lot of humans had that switch? That would be great.
Oh my God, yes. Especially my kids when they were between the ages of 2 and 20.
Shut him up or shut him off. I like that.
But I tried doing that with my iPhone, but I have to take it back to the Apple store on Coruscant. So they know me there. They know me.
Geek Squad. And you know who runs the Geek Squad? Mog. That's who's running the Geek Squad over there. Mog. We'll get into Mog a little bit later.
Mog's working the counter at the for the Geek Squad. That's hilarious. I love it.
Oh, man. So I agree with you. If not for the entire episode, I think Saul figures it out early on. And I think it happens around the time that he's able to sort of purge himself to some degree of some of those emotions that may have been clouding his judgment. But
the emotion purge, the famed Jedi emotion purge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oddly enough, the Jedi, they purge their emotions the same way I do. I walk into a room by myself, I turn on the TV, I punch a table, and then I go through all of that, and then I just hang my head down. And the good old fashioned Jedi emotional purge. Try it today.
All right, got to get into Qimir here. Got to get into Qimir. Man, oh man. Boy, this is some Sith skinny dipping that we got going on in this episode. When I saw him going into this water, heading towards the waters, immediately I was thinking about Mandalorian and the waters that he needed to be, to cleanse himself. And I was thinking that this, maybe there's some spiritual reason behind this. And I got to tell you, I'm left just to think that this was good old-fashioned seduction.
I think you're right. I think you're absolutely right. At first, I was leaning toward that, too. Does he need the water?
Right.
to reinforce his connection to the dark side or something. And I noticed in his lair he had a couple of hot tubs right in the middle there. Those
Did he really?
They didn't look natural to me. They looked man-made.
Wow.
You could call it a Sith spa. And he'll reveal his name to be Darth Jacuzzi. But no, maybe he just enjoyed.
Took me a second there on that one.
Maybe
you
he
gotta
just
have fun, folks. Come on.
Yeah, maybe he just enjoys a good soak. I don't know. But yeah, he went into the water, and it clearly seemed like there was some seduction going on there. He even mentioned something to May about, well, if you're not going to join me in here, he wanted to get it on. There's no question about that.
Yes.
He wanted to get it on with Osha. And I don't know if that's part of his twisting her to the dark side. He's definitely a guy who feeds his desires.
Yes.
In any way he feels like, whether it be drugs in the apothecary or murdering Jedi on Kofar or inviting Osha in for a little skinny dip. I like that. There's something that has always been with Sith Lords. I mean, really, and Kylo Ren doesn't count because he wasn't a Sith Lord. But there's always been something about them that seemed so just detached from anything and everything. Palpatine had some real personality moments. I do have to say that. He definitely had some.
His seduction of Anakin was pretty complete if you look it through the prequels.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And even his seduction of Luke there in the throne room, to compel Luke to try to kill his own father,
right.
That didn't go very well for Kylo Ren, the whole killing your father thing. Very overrated. I say, hopefully
your results may vary.
Right.
With that strategy.
And let's definitely recommend this particular podcast to our own children, just to sort of send them the message, But yeah, it didn't end well for him. And that's, the seduction is a big part of the Sith game. And I enjoy it. I like seeing Qimir from all these different angles.
I mean, here's the thing. I'm trying to think of when we have seen, and I'm not talking about comic books, folks. I'm not talking about novels. But I'm trying to think of when we've seen a male Sith try to seduce a female Sith or vice versa. Because when you think about it, they play on passions, they play on emotion. And clearly, when it comes to the romance department and seduction. So I feel like what we see Qimir do throughout this episode is try different strategies. This was one strategy. Let's see if I can get her to bite on this. No pun intended.
Yeah.
Talk about bait. But she doesn't. She doesn't bite on that. So he has to come up with a different strategy. And the strategy that he comes up with is, for some that are not big fans of this show, I think they're going to think that this is sacrilegious to some degree. But if you look at this shot of him hunched over, making some sort of stew or whatever it is, this to me looks like Yoda in Empire Strikes Back. I feel so. Not that Yoda. I'm not saying that Yoda was seducing Luke or tempting Luke or anything like that, but just I think this is a visual cue to us that he's really trying to be to get Osha to look at this guy as someone she can really trust. He's offering food, again, playing into those carnal needs of comfort and security and all of that. And I think the food is part of it. And he even dresses, he's not like wearing his sort of Ninja Gaiden Sith garb. He's got a hoodie on, or what? It looks like something, it's too light for something Mac would wear, but maybe something I'd wear there, sort of a nice heather gray, cream color.
I would wear that. Would fit my fashion sensibilities, Mike.
Okay, it's in your color range.
Yeah, in the palette.
In the palette, that's what I was looking for.
Fashion palette, yeah, for sure.
But am I imagining this? Were you getting shades of Yoda on Dagobah all here?
I was not. I have to admit, I would have noticed if that was something that I was drawing a connection between. But it was just a very interesting, different look at this character. We've been presented with so many different facets of his personality, from the shady huckster who is leading May along, posing as just some schmuck, really. And then to see him as a brutal murderer who slices down Jedi without any sense of compassion or hesitation. And now we see this guy who's very strategic and plotting, and we get more of a sense of where his head is at. It was a great character study for this particular character in this particular episode. I think it really added a lot to what makes Qimir tick, and just how he sort of sees himself fitting in the whole galaxy as a Sith among the High Republic. He's looking, I don't know if he's looking to make a big move or anything, but he's definitely trying to recruit, and to do so means you're out there in the open to a degree, and the Jedi make that sort of recruitment very difficult for a dude like Qimir, who's just a simple Sith trying to make his way through the universe.
Well, I mean, he says he gets right down to the grass tacks of what his motivation is. And he says it's the same thing that you seek. It's the power of two. The power of two. And he's turning Osha's need for connection, which you could say is the connection that she's craving to have with her twin, that she can't because her twin's crazy. She's sort of displaced that with Saul. So Saul is sort of standing in as part of that relationship she could never have with the sister. And he says some pretty interesting things pretty damning things about the Jedi. He says, why do you love, let me see if I can find that here, those that essentially can't love you back the same way or as much. You're always going to be in every two-person relationship you have with a Jedi, you're just going to be one person in that relationship because they don't have attachments, they don't love, they don't, all of these sorts of things. So he's trying to cut her off from thinking of having any future with the Jedi, because you're not like them, Osha. You're different. You're like me. You're like me. You need connection, and you need the power of two. So the thing he's leaving out, of course, is that once you become the apprentice of a Sith Lord, then it becomes a cat and mouse game where you always have one to possess the power and the other to desire the power or to take the power.
Right. That's the way they go about doing it. But you have to be prepared for that day. You are going to take the power from your Sith master, and you better have an apprentice there ready to slide into position when you're ready to assume the title of the Sith Lord. So I see what Qimir's doing. And, Darth Vader did the same thing. If you look at Star Wars Expanded Universe and stories like The Force Unleashed with Galen Merrick, a.k.a. the Star Killer, that was apprentice Vader was training early on in secret. And the Inquisitors are a different story, though, aren't they? They're known. They're a known entity throughout the Empire. They're almost like a military rank Inquisitor. So I'm not really sure how all that works. But once the Sith take over the galaxy, I think a lot of the rule of two rules slip to the wayside just a little bit, because their end game was to gain galactic dominance. And that's why they created the rule of two, because infighting throughout the Sith Empire caused each Sith Lord to turn against one another, and that devastated the entire empire.
Right.
So, and that's when the Jedi were finally able to grab hold of, I guess, justice throughout the galaxy. That's how they slid into that spot, is the Sith wiped themselves out. And then that brought on the rise of the Old Republic and the Jedi along with them. So the Sith go into hiding. They work with the ruler too. But once Palpatine takes office and turns the Republic into an empire, then that's the end game for the Sith, really. And then everything from that point forward is really at Palpatine's whims. And if Vader wants to have a bunch of Darksiders employed in the Empire, then he's going to use them.
Well, okay, so I think that the Sith know that there's a recruiting process that goes on. When you're the apprentice,
yes,
when you're the apprentice, you're going to be looking for your apprentice so that you can then take on the mantle of master and kill your master. So I think they're willing to turn. It's not really a blind eye. They know that's what's going to happen.
It's just natural.
It's just natural.
Yeah.
Now, what their job is to, sort of be as impenetrable as possible, be one step ahead. So it kind of reminds me of the old Pink Panther movies when Inspector Clouseau always has Kato trying to jump out of a closet and try to kill him. He keeps his reflexes sharp and all of that. So you do kind of have that sort of thing going on. So it's certainly not, it's like being in the mob too. You can't relax. It's a glamorous lifestyle, but you're always worried of looking over your shoulders, or every time you start your car, you're nervous. So I feel like that's what it would be like to be a Sith master or a Sith Lord. So I think the Sith Lord always knows that there's going to be a level of dust and chaos happening below the apprentice. But they're there to make sure it doesn't get too out of hand. Like Palpatine, we see him intervene with the whole Darth Maul and brother, what was his name? Savage Opress. He steps in because it's getting out of hand.
Right.
You got the witches, you got the Maul. All right, this isn't the way it's going to go.
Yeah. Plus, Darth Maul was really rogue at that point.
Yeah, right. He'd fallen out of line.
Yeah, Palpatine had his Count Dooku, and that was good enough for him. He wasn't really ready to start expanding. Not yet. Not until he declares the Republic is an empire. Then that's when I think Palpatine really goes, all right, let's throw a bunch of things up against the wall and see what sticks here. Inquisitors for everyone. I got my apprentice. He's always going to be trying to take me down.
Right.
But, so Palpatine, and he had no problem pitting his own apprentice against Luke Skywalker. Darth Vader versus Luke Skywalker, encouraging Luke to kill the Sith apprentice.
Now
they got a messed up thing. They got a messed up thing.
Yeah, they're messed up. They're definitely dysfunctional. They need to go on Dr. Phil. They need to go on Dr. Phil and work this out.
The Sith HR department.
Can you imagine?
Their inbox is stacked like a mile high. It's
a lot of complaints.
Lots of complaining. Yeah.
All right. We see a third strategy with Qimir.
Mm-hmm.
First is seduction in the carnal, romantic way. The second is taking care of her needs, being Mr. Nice Guy. And the third way is to piss her off.
Yeah.
To really piss her off and have her strike me down. That one. Do it. Just like Palpatine in Return of the Jedi. I am unarmed.
Yeah.
Strike me down. And he even says, turn it on. Do it. And she says, a Jedi doesn't attack the unarmed. Why do you still think of yourself as a Jedi? They didn't want you. That's not true. It just keeps ratcheting up and getting her really angry. And you think she's going to. I mean, she puts the saber to his throat.
Yeah.
And she shows an incredible amount of internal strength here in character by not doing it. Now, what's her motive for not doing it, though? Is her motive because her better angels are telling her not to? Or is it because I kind of like this guy? He's turning me on. I think that's kind of part of it.
Wow.
He's scratching my itches.
Well, it's really interesting how, again, I'm calling her Ahsoka. Osha did expose that element of her personality when in the last episode she stopped Saul from killing Qimir right there in the forest. He was about ready to cut him down, and Osha yelled, "Stop, don't do it."
Yeah, right. That's right.
So her moral boundaries have kind of already been established. So for her to kill Qimir in this moment, no matter how much he was pissing her off, it would have been out of character for Osha from what we've seen her being portrayed as previously. Yeah. No matter how mad he was making her, it was consistent with her character to not strike the killing blow.
Now, Aaron Clark in the chat says she's also stranded and on an unknown world, but he points to the ship and tells her, hey, right after the skinny dipping scene, pretty much, he's like, if you want to, there's the ship, go ahead, leave. You're free to leave. That's the other thing. Like, I'm not even keeping you prisoner. That's what the Jedi would do. And then what do we see? A few minutes after that, Saul's got May strapped down to a table, Vader style. So it's like this guy's being Mr. Smoothie.
Yeah.
And Saul's having to be a real hard ass.
Yeah. The tables have turned.
The whole thing's a switcheroo.
Yeah. But again, that's a matter of perspective. I think, Saul actually had May down in restraints because she's dangerous.
Right.
And,
right. Yeah.
It's very black and white right there. And with Qimir and Osha, I think Qimir can play around with her a little bit. I don't think he really considers Osha to be a threat. It's almost like watching a cat slap around an animal before it applies a striking blow to it. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting here. Now, would Osha have swam to that ship if she didn't see Qimir naked? I think she would have. But once she saw that dude, that was it. She ain't leaving that island.
Wait a minute. What exactly did she see there? Wait.
We saw the full Monty, baby. She's not going anywhere. And so she'll play this cat and mouse game with him.
Oh.
She's
By the
enjoying
way, no, I just want to mention this is a call-in show, so make sure we've already got a number of calls already in the queue, but 708-866-1737, that is the number to call. We want you to share your thoughts, your opinions, your observations, your theories, your likes, your dislikes, your gripes, all of that. It's all fair game here on Rebel Force Radio in the after show. So what we like to do is sort of set the table, get the issues and the topics out there, and then hear what you all think. We also got some super chats in the queue, so thank you for those. We'll get to them here shortly. The last temptation, or the temptation of Osha, continues, and he employs a lot of different strategies. And I think, if the ending is really what we see, it works. It works. That last temptation is, she shows off the helmet. By the way, points to Jimmy Mack for identifying cortosis last week, identifying that. That's exactly what it was. He even gave us like a little history lesson practically on it. He tells us exactly what cortosis is. I sort of laughed about that. But now, does that also explain why he was impenetrable to the stun bolt?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it sort of absorbs energy is the idea?
Yeah, it does. It does. It has the power to short out lightsabers. And it's kind of a brittle mineral. It can easily be broken. It doesn't take much to bust it or anything, but it provides a lot of protection as far as lightsabers, stun bolts, blaster bolts, and kind of a new twist. I didn't know this before, but it's like sensory deprivation. And according to Qimir, the Jedi put it on younglings to cut off all their senses except the connection between the wearer and the Force. And he says, you, and only what you bring in with you.
Right.
Which was called back to Yoda in the tree cave. Yep. Luke, what's in there? Yoda, only what you bring with you. Luke puts out the blasters. So naturally, he's going to find a situation where he might need to use his blasters or his lightsaber. So that's what cortosis is. You can see inside Qimir's cave that there are veins of cortosis running in the cave walls. So this is a planet.
Oh, so it's like a mine, like a cortosis mine or something.
Or they could be close to a cortosis mine. And that's a page right out of the Darth Plagueis novel. The planet was called Baldamic. And this is where Plagueis and Tenebris actually mined cortosis. So, they might be right around the corner. Those
you
two
said
cats.
the P and T words. That's coming up here in my notes. Because we are going to get to. We saw some folks in the chat saying, talk about Qimir and his age and what he reveals. We're going to get to sort of who might Qimir be. That's definitely on the list. But I think what we really need to talk about here is what's on everybody's mind. Not who is Qimir, but really who is Mog. Who is Mog? I'm gonna just allow me to gripe here. Nothing against this actor. I'm sure this actor is a wonderful person. But I'm telling you, you get a guy that looks like this out of Central Casting. What are you casting for? Heroic, suave, swashbuckling? Can we? I don't want to be a bad person here, but I don't necessarily need to see. If I look like this dude, I don't need to see me on the big screen. Okay, I want to see Liam Neeson as a Jedi. I want to see Lee Jung-jae as a Jedi. I don't want to see this guy. Looks like the guy at the convention that you go, oh, he's trying. It's like, no, dude, it's not. I'm sorry, Mog. You're lame. You're terrible. Would you please lift a weight at some point in your miserable life? Actually, you're a Jedi. Lift some rocks, whatever you need to do. But and he just screws things up the whole damn time. He thinks he's like, oh, well, that planet. When they realize that the Jedi have gone missing. What is Mog's contribution to it? I wrote it down here. He goes, oh no, he's the one that interrupts. We got to get to that conversation that Vernestra is having with the senator. But he says something about, damn it, I got it right here. Oh, I'm sure that these casualties are due to the planet's uncharted environment. You've got these you've got Jedi Knights. Jedi Knights can't survive an uncharted environment? Are you kidding me? And then later he lays it at the feet of the Umbra Moths. Oh, it must have been the Umbra Moths. What faith do you have in your Jedi Knights? I'm really struggling with the strength of these characters. And I don't mean how well they're developed. I'm talking about literal strength, like strength in the Force.
Yeah, right.
And Mog is a great representation of this. Enough.
Mog. And then there's Mog, his own show. They got the theme song ready and everything. And then there's Mog.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Tom Baker, in the chat. He starts blaming it on Saul at the end.
He does at the end.
Only Master Saul could have pulled this off. And of course, Vernestra, she's covering her ass.
This guy's drowning in the muck and he's reaching for a straw to breathe in. Everything. He's just making it up as he goes along. He's like the Michael Scott of Jedi. He's just making it, A lot of times I open my mouth, I don't know what I'm going to say. Mog makes me think of Kathleen Kennedy in the South Park satire where she goes, put a chick in it, make her gay and lame. Well, Kathleen Kennedy to the Acolyte producers said, put a Jedi in it, make him skinny and a dweeb. You know, it's so ridiculous. But, not all Jedi can be Obi-Wan Kenobi. Not all Jedi can be Qui-Gon Jinn.
Oh, they've all been. Other than they've been diminutive, like Yoda and Yaddle, and what's the little pig guy, the little pink pig guy? Oh,
Pink pig guy.
He's had a couple of different deaths. I think Clone Wars contradicted. Even Peel.
I don't think he's a pig guy.
Well, he looks kind of pig. Okay, sorry. Sorry, Evan Peel.
Really, in case his family's listening.
Okay.
I don't want you to call him a pig guy. Show some respect.
All right. Well, he's the pinkish hued, larger eared individual of diminutive size. No, it has nothing to do with that. It's just this guy looks like a wimp. I'm sorry. He just looks like a total wimp. And
total wimp.
He's ascribing like wimpy, sort of a wimpy description of the Jedi, like they're going to be killed by a bunch of moths, for God's sake.
Well, I know what the most popular cosplay at the con is going to be for the rest of 2024. And then there's Mog. And then there's Mog.
Can we instead of the running of the what's the ice cream guy, the running of the
that guy.
Anyway, can we just have a bunch of, here's what I want. I want there to be the stuffing of the Mogs in the high school lockers. Can we just have a big row of lockers? And what we do at the con is we just grab all the Mog cosplayers and shove them inside.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't make it to that panel because this is when we're supposed to be giving Mog an atomic wedgie. Sorry. I have to be there for this. I promised everyone.
Yes. Swirlies, atomic wedgies.
Everything. Yeah, the whole thing. And then there's Mog.
All right, Mog rant over. I just had to do it. That was just for Kyle. But let's talk about the let's talk a little bit about the Sith switch. You've got May, who is now at the end of the episode is literally being strapped down. She's going to hear what Saul has to say. And by the way, those of you that are parents, have you ever said this to your kids? First, you and I are going to talk. I've had 16 years to think about what I would say if I ever got the opportunity. You're going to listen. I'm going to strap you down. You're going to listen. So
16 years, huh? How old is Bailey Swank, Jason?
She's going to be 16 here coming up in the next couple of months.
Wow. There's going to be some role play going on in the Swank house, I'm sure.
But he comes across as dad. He gets that dad tone.
Yeah, for sure.
I am going to talk and you are going to listen. You listen.
You're going to sit still. Stop fidgeting. Stop fidgeting. Give me that. You got the iPhone,
I'll give you something to cry about. Okay.
Eyes up here. Come on.
So am I reading too much into this line, though, Jim, when he says, I've had 16 years to think about what I would say to you if I ever got the opportunity? Is that Saul admitting that he's known all along that she was alive, most likely? Because if she was dead, why would you spend time thinking about what you would have said? He says, I've had 16 years to think about what I would say to you if I ever got the opportunity. Was he thinking about the afterlife? What's he thinking about?
Or maybe he had some visions in the Force that he and May were going to reunite someday. And that kind of stuff scared him, so he pushed it down, didn't want to think about it. But here it is right in front of him. So that's hard to even contemplate right now without having the full story at our disposal, because we don't know what happened.
No, we don't. But he says I'm gonna basically confess to the High Council. So he's done something.
I'm gonna turn myself in and tell them everything.
Right.
Yes. Everything. So, she wanted to know. Well, why don't you tell me first?
Okay.
And then he
I'm
hesitated.
glad you brought that up.
Yes.
I'm glad you brought that up because I told you at the beginning that I had questions. Here's a question of mine.
Yes.
In that moment that you're talking about, he kind of stalls, like he's not, Saul stalls. He's been doing this for episodes. That's right. She runs and starts trying to communicate to somebody out there. Why in the world does she do that? She stops the conversation, runs to the comms, says, is anybody out there? Is anybody out there? Then he hits her with the stun blast.
Yeah.
Oh, man. And then he turns his transponder off so he can't be tracked. So he wants to keep her alone and isolated and all that. But I'm just so confused. If she wants to know, why is she running to call for help, essentially?
Or is she calling to connect to the Jedi and follow through on what she said she was going to do last?
Oh. Well,
and turn herself in and tell her what she knows. Because remember, she's going to say, I'm going to turn myself in the Jedi and tell them who I know. And so maybe Saul is trying to protect himself by blasting her before she can put out that call. And maybe he's doing something to continue the cover-up that he's been participating in for the last 16 years.
Okay, I think I have another theory, though. I may have answered this. He says, it's time to make things right. It's time for me to face the High Council, to tell them everything. Everything? Okay. I think she's thinking, if I'm going to get him, he wants to go tell the Jedi Council. So if I'm going to get him to talk, we got to get back to the Jedi Council. I need to hear this. He's going to go turn himself into the council. So maybe that's why she ran out there to try to talk to somebody. I don't know. I like I said, I don't want to make too big of a deal of it, but it's a very big moment in the show.
Yeah.
And so this is something that happens with the Acolyte in me is these things happen and I go, well, why did that happen? And it's very murky. It's very unclear.
Well, that's kind part of the mystery. The mystery.
Well, does everything have to be a mystery? Like,
well, that's the way they do it now at Lucasfilm. I mean, at least we're getting some answers to stuff. The Ahsoka series, I'm still scratching my head trying to figure out what that was, and this is months later. Months later, at least with the Acolyte, there's some potential of discovery.
Right.
There was none. Everything was so super vague with the Ahsoka show. And if this season ends and we don't get fulfillment in that category, that specific category, then I think a lot of people are going to be really, really frosted. Like we've just been getting strung along again by another Star Wars series that goes nowhere. I'm not willing to make that leap yet, but there's only 2 episodes left. So we need answers. It's essential that flipping Master Sol opens his flipping mouth at some point and flipping spills the beans.
I promise because I will tell you everything.
After 6 episodes out of 8, I'm really feeling like we're getting strung along. So there better be some big fat payoff at the end. That's all I'm saying.
Yes.
Big fat payoff.
What's cool about this switcheroo to me is it's not just a switch of May and Osha. It's also a little bit of a switch between the 2 masters in this case, Master Sol and Qimir, in the sense that Saul is he's kind of playing bad cop and Qimir is playing good cop. But Qimir is using good cop to lure her to the dark side, and Saul is kind of sort of playing tough love, it seems like, with May, to get her to come around to the light side. So, sort of a double switch. Did you have something to say on that?
Not really.
Okay, all right.
Pass.
Okay, pass. Let's talk a little bit about Qimir, because there was a lot of stuff that dropped about him, who he is, his history, a couple things that we know, Jim, based on what he says. And I'll just put, if you're a big Qimir fan, I'm going to leave this picture up there, okay? We'll leave him there with his muscles rippling. Yep. But we learned that he's was a Jedi. Yes, he was a Jedi. And she goes, well, I've never heard of you. He goes, it was a very long time ago.
Right.
This looks like a relatively young dude.
Right.
So
he's ageless.
What's at play here? And I wrote down some thoughts. Are we looking at Darth Tenebris? Are we looking at Darth Plagueis? Or is he just Qimir? Based on previous Star Wars shows, I would say he's just Qimir. But the only thing that is canonized, to my knowledge, about Tenebris and Plagueis is just Plagueis' name. There's nothing canonized about Tenebris. And even the species that Plagueis is not canonized.
No.
So this could be either one of them.
There could be some wiggle room there. There could be some wiggle room. With the Darth Plagueis character, there was an action figure created of him.
Good point. Good point, yes.
And to me, that's a certain level of canonization.
Ooh.
And to completely ignore that, I think, would be a little sloppy. However, his master could be a Darth Tenebris who would show up. He would be a Bith Sith, a Bith Lord, Sith Lord.
Yeah.
One of the rare appearances of a Bith not jamming on a musical instrument in Star Wars. I welcome that. But we'll see how that plays out. It's just, his age a long time ago. And you also know that Vernestra Rwoh is a very old Jedi. She's like 100 years old. And we also see Qimir has what looks like scars from a whipping on his back. Yes. You would think, though, that a lightsaber whip, once it connects, it will slice. It won't scar. But maybe it just depends on how you control it. Maybe Vernestra is just such a master at it; she can just
that's
scar.
a good point. I didn't even think about that. She hits the Umbra Moth with the whip saber, right?
Yeah,
which we saw in the trailer.
Slices in half.
Yeah, and so it's possible then that those scars, that the scar pattern on his back. I was trying to look to see if I had a photo. If I had a photo of his sexy back, where is it? He's bringing sexy back, just like Justin Timberlake. I'm sorry, I don't have it, but yeah, it is sort of a pattern that would be certainly within the realm of something that you could imagine being inflicted by a whip and a saber whip.
So maybe you could work a lightsaber whip. I mean, with sabers, we've seen characters get smacked on the arm with them, and it doesn't go all the way through. With Vader, that happened. With Obi-Wan in Attack of the Clones, that happened. So that I might just be looking into it too much. There's certain ways a saber, somebody who's wielding a saber, you can deliver non-lethal blows if you know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Trying to find the passage when he talks about his history, but I just came to this one line that I thought was really good. We didn't talk about this with May because last week I was struggling, and I still am to some degree, of what is May's motivation. Like she's bad, and then she turns good, and then she's fighting with Jecki, and then she's trying to kill Saul again, but she was going to turn herself in, and I'm like, it's all over the place. And Qimir gives his take as to what her motive is, and it's one word: revenge, period. Yeah. And that was, in his mind, something that he misjudged. He thought she wanted something more than that.
Right. Okay. Yeah. My comment about May stating that she's going to turn herself into Jedi, she said she was going to turn herself into Kelnaka. And when she arrived at Kelnaka's lair and discovered he was dead, I think that sort of ended her plan, because they would naturally accuse her of killing him, and she didn't want to take the hit on that. However, she is accused of killing
Indara, which she did.
Indara, Torben, and her own family in a fire.
Right.
So there's a lot on her rap sheet already. The addition of a dead Kelnaka doesn't really change things.
True. Hey, I may have killed like, I don't know, 25, 30 people, but I didn't kill Kelnaka.
Yeah.
So
yeah. That's
throw
not going to
stones
fly.
somewhere else.
No, that is not going to fly. So when Jackie does confront her, she does fight, but Jackie ambushes her, and it doesn't seem like there's much room for conversation there. So it's like fighting for survival more than anything.
Yeah. Yeah, because Jackie comes on real strong. There's no question about that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I guess if they wanted to, she could have said, she could have, put her hands up. She could have surrendered. But I think you're right. I have to go back and look at the episode again, but I think you're right that she says, I'm going to go tell Kelnaka everything. Mm-hmm. I don't think she says I'm going to turn myself in, but I'm not sure that she says too specifically to the Jedi. I don't know. It's a bit squishy. It's a little
Maybe
squishy.
She does.
What else do we know? What else, Jim, do we know about Qimir? We know that he's good with cortosis. We know that he was a former Jedi. We know that he's scarred. We know that he says that he was thrown away. Like May, he was thrown away.
Yeah. And he also said he's lost everything.
Yes, he's lost everything, which gives him freedom. And that, the old adage, be very wary of the man who has nothing to lose.
Yeah.
They're the most dangerous people of all.
He definitely insinuates Soul's strength from the Force comes from Osha.
Yeah, right.
He says, Osha says, he's going to come find me. His strength in the Force is very powerful. And Qimir says, you think that's his strength? That's your strength in the Force, Osha.
Right.
Somebody should teach you that. So he's picking up on something. This whole power of two is something that might be not only something the witches on Brendok dance and sing about, but it could be something that really fuels the rule of two within the Sith. Another indication that the witches on Brendok are tapping into the dark side of the Force. That's another indication. They're tapping into the dark side of the Force. They're using the Force unnaturally. They're motivated by fear and sometimes aggression. I mean, that was notable when Coral wanted to go kill the Jedi in the middle of the night.
Yes.
She's being very aggressive. And that just seems like, part of who she is. And we don't get to know the other witches. We only get to know really two of them. And so the two witches we get to know make big statements about their entire coven. And so I think if Coral is so willing to act violently, motivated by fear, then she's going to be representative of a large portion of those witches. That's just the way they operate.
Interestingly enough, when he's telling Osha about the other way, the way that the Jedi won't teach you, it says, below the surface of consciousness are powerful emotions: anger, fear, loss, desire. He never says hate. And hate is like up there with, that's a big. Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. So I guess this is sort of that's the Yoda pitch. This is his pitch. But he definitely is playing on the emotions that he knows Osha's facing. She is angry. She is scared. She has experienced this loss. And there might be a little desire for, Qimir,
Woo!
She says, you murdered my friends. Because
Sorry about that. Every time that happens, I have to respond, because sometimes I wish the Acolyte was filmed in front of the same studio audience that they filmed Married with Children in front of. So whenever anything hot happened on the stage of Married with Children, the studio audience would all go, woo! Sorry,
we need that. I think we need Acolyte filmed in front of a live studio audience. I tell you, if someone do that, we got a lot of very talented people in RFR land. I'd love to see somebody do something like that.
Yeah.
But she says, "You murdered my friends." He goes, "I killed Jedi. I killed those who threatened my existence." So now we're back to this whole, I'm an endangered species. I'm just trying to live my life. The Jedi are a threat to that. They won't let me be me. They won't let me, fly my freak flag, all of that. And this also goes to this theme that we're seeing, which is this show does not portray Jedi in a very good light. And I saw a recent interview with Headland, Leslie Headland, and she said, "Well, we've seen the Jedi, we're in the good light. We've seen them as the heroes." And I would push back on that a little bit. Yes, Obi-Wan Kenobi, very heroic. Old Ben, he's very much a hero in A New Hope. Then you find out in the second movie that he lied to Luke. And then you've got the prequels, and the Jedi are already blind by the veil and the shroud of the dark side. So this idea that the Jedi we're tired of, essentially seeing, and I'm putting some words in her mouth, but what I think she's saying is, well, we want to subvert these expectations and we want to show the Jedi not as being the heroes and should turn the camera around and see it from a Sith perspective. I don't know that we've ever really seen the Jedi as the heroes. Even in the Clone Wars, Jim, they're always fighting under this cloud of, well, they're really on the bad guy's side. They're on Palpatine's side. So
they're just tools.
I'm just saying that for Star Wars storytelling, there's a lot of room out there to show the Jedi as being the heroes that I always grew up as a kid thinking that they were.
Yeah, that's like the Barris Offee perspective, where she thinks the Jedi are just being tools used by the dark side and participating in this war that's only there to power the dark side. So that's where Barris Offee was coming from. Yeah, I get it. I get it. I guess we've never, seen prime Jedi in action working together as the force for justice throughout the galaxy. I mean, I guess we're seeing it in this show, but we're not seeing it.
Are we really?
In a positive light is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We're not seeing it in a positive light. We're seeing it from an entirely different perspective. So, the Jedi certainly had many great heroic moments throughout the course of the Clone Wars. So we have seen them portrayed as heroes, removing the Palpatine is Chancellor notion that sort of fuels everything really at the end of the day. We still get to see the Jedi doing what the Jedi do really well, and that's fight for righteousness throughout the galaxy and defeat evil. And
there's a nobility to them. I think Baylan Skoll in Ahsoka had more nobility, even though he's a gray Jedi or whatever the hell he is with the orange lightsaber. I think he had more nobility than, outside of Saul, any of these Jedi that we're seeing in this show. Well, maybe not Mog, but outside of Saul and Mog, so I don't know. It's just a little bit of a pet peeve. I'm hoping that when the show wraps up, that we're going to realize that this show is staking, putting a stake in the ground and saying that the light side is the right side. That is the path. That is what we should follow. I'm hoping that. I'm hoping we're not taken away. You should really sit down and talk to the Sith. They got some good points.
Oh, no. Yeah, we cannot make the Sith sympathetic necessarily, because their overall cause is, they're just going about it all the wrong way.
Yeah.
They're murderers. They're evil. They're manipulators.
Right.
Play all these mind games and stuff. There's no redeeming qualities to them, but being presented to them acting as, the focus of this show, it sort of is interesting to get in their heads a little more than we have. And
They're definitely the antagonists of this show, I think.
There's nothing wrong with providing humanity to villains, but
no, I agree.
Just because that happens, and I'll use The Sopranos as an example again.
Mm-hmm.
Just because that happens, it doesn't redeem them. You know, you love Tony Soprano and Paulie Walnuts and the gang, but you see them doing horrible stuff, and you hope you never cross paths with them ever. And that's the feeling, you know, but still you get to know them a little bit, and you get to get inside their heads and understand their sense of humanity, no matter how twisted it might be or selfish. It's still people. It's still a story about people.
I go back to the simplicity that George used in telling the original trilogy. And that was, he felt in the 70s that storytelling was very murky, very gray, very dark, and there weren't these, there wasn't a simple good guy versus bad guy story.
Right.
And so I just don't want to see us stray too far from that. I don't think that George was ever trying to make the case that, well, you can't trust anybody, even the Jedi are bad, and the Sith are bad, and the Jedi Council is corrupt, and the New Republic and the Old Republic, everybody's corrupt. Like, it can't go that way. We got to have some heroes. You know, I'm Luke Skywalker. I'm here to rescue you. I'm here with Ben Kenobi. That's heroism. So that's my little plea for heroism. More heroism in Star Wars.
Who are the heroes in this show?
Yeah. I have one more theory to throw at you, though, if you're open for it.
I am.
About Qimir?
Sure. Yeah.
What if he is Tenebrous or Plagueis, but he's found the ability to cast his spirit into another body?
Oh, one of those things.
Palpatine must have known it was possible somehow.
That's a good one. This could be some sort of Force user who's been around for generations and generations upon that, because he has the ability to cross over into someone. Maybe that's why he was so willing or even eager to let Osha kill him in rage.
Right. Because he knew.
Transfer his soul over into her.
Hey, let's do some super chats. We got Turtle Wars. He says, the Acolyte, not my favorite so far. RFR After Show, always 1,000 times better. Thank you, Turtle Wars. What a great guy, Turtle.
All right, now
finally meet him.
And now, Jason and I shall take our shirts off, and we'll wait to hear if you still believe that. Let's go.
You need to watch the YouTube video. I'm sitting here right now. Pecs flexing. Look at this. Man. Look at that. Look at those abs.
I'm doing that thing where you bounce your chest left and right. You know? Do that thing. You know, it's like,
they go Bumby. Yeah.
Yeah, you really got to subscribe to this show.
Absolutely. Here's Dominic Garant. He says, I found Jecki and Yord's acting to be pretty stiff this episode.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, definitely. I wonder how much they got paid to come back just to lay there on the ground for this episode.
Yeah. So just lay here. That's what you want me to do? Lay here. Just right. Well, can I still go to the craft services table then? I mean, I know I'm not acting, but, you know, laying here isn't easy, and I'm getting hungry. All right.
We got against me at 111. Just throwing some money here. Oh, here's the message. Against me, it says, Saul may be blamed for Kofar's massacre. A rogue Jedi's false accusations against Sith could lead to Saul's scapegoating, fueling council doubts on Sith. Yes, thank you for the reminder. We got to talk about this. It wasn't the most exciting scene, but I think that it carried certainly a lot of meaning, and we have to look at it. This is the scene between Vernestra talking to the senator. So this is pretty interesting stuff here, where the senator has a name. I don't think that it's Chewant. Chewant is the senator that she's talking to. What you want? I think that's how she answers. Yeah.
It's all right. There's a BC Boys song. What you want? What you want? And that's this guy is that species, the same species Eloasti was in The Force Awakens. Eloasti was named after the Beastie Boys tune Hello Nasty. And then you had from The Last Jedi, that doofus alien. He was telling those officers, they just parked right there on the shore. I told them not to park.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt did the voice.
And he was Slow and Low was his name. And Slow and Low is the name of the Beastie Boys tune. Now, this guy, continuing the tradition, he's the same type of alien, and he's named after the Beastie Boys song, What You Want.
What you want. These are all this is all done on purpose, Beastie Boys stuff?
This was something that J.J. Abrams established in The Force Awakens. And
I'm so glad J.J. Abrams has left his stamp on.
So apparently
Star Wars.
Apparently Rian Johnson and Leslie Headland also big Beastie Boys fans. And I like the Beastie Boys too.
Beasties. All right.
I do like that song. So
Chewant.
What you want? That's him.
So Chewant.
Senator.
Right. I'm really struggling with this beer cap.
Yeah, I know you're trying.
Sorry about that. I would have muted it if I'd have known it was going to be a 30-second battle. Sorry about that. Jesus.
I was going through the entire Beastie Boys catalog to try to build more time for you.
I appreciate it. Thanks for vamping. All right, so Chewant, he says to Vernestra, he says, Senator Rayencourt continues to gain support. My colleagues in the expansion region will vote in favor of an external review of the order. Dude, they're getting a letter from the IRS saying that they're about to be audited.
Audited.
This is terrible.
But why? Why an external review of the order? What has the Jedi Order done to deserve this? What's
his fear? Vernestra says, well, he has never been a friend of the Jedi, but I worry his fear has convinced so many. So I think they're laying, this is season 2 stuff. I'm feeling like that they might be laying this out there. So we're going to find out, why is this guy afraid? But against me here in the chat is real smart. He says Saul may be blamed for that massacre because it seems like if Vernestra's not evil and a Sith or something, I think she's at least going to be involved in covering all this up. She's going to sweep this under the rug.
I get that too.
Her motivation is revealed, I think, in this exchange with this Beastie Boys senator. But but here's what Chewant says. He goes, well, a review should be no cause for alarm. The Jedi are always transparent with the Senate, right?
Right. Right. Except in this particular case. And is that why there's an audit? Because is it public knowledge that Jedi were massacred on Kofar? Is that public knowledge? Because obviously they know on Coruscant at the Jedi Temple what happened. But does that spread like wildfire throughout the Imperial Holonet or something?
I don't think that is. I think this is another incident, right? And I think that Vernestra believes that they're at a tipping point, and I don't mean light side, dark side, which she talks about in a moment, but that they're at this sort of tipping point that if the Jedi have one more scandal or there's one more smell of a scandal, then the hammer is going to come down. We know the hammer comes down because they end up working directly for the Chancellor, and at this point, there's still some autonomy, it seems like, between the Jedi Council and the Republic, the government.
Well, your favorite guy, Jedi Mog, is questioning Vernestra when she sort of resists the idea that Saul could have been responsible for the massacre. She says, that's kind of a powerful accusation to make. And then Mog says, well, what else could be so powerful?
Right.
And she says something to tip the scales. And I thought she was talking about balance of the force, where she's sensing a dark side force on the rise. She's sensing that.
Right.
But not really sharing it with others so much, I mean, she should be alerting the council to this. I'm sensing the dark side is rising, and there's a mystery about who massacred the Jedi on Kofar, but she is afraid that she's going to have to take the responsibility of sending those Jedi to Kofar. So I think she's primarily motivated in covering her ass, her green ass.
Yes, and they don't want word getting out that there's a rogue Jedi out there. Oh, well, wait a minute. So these Jedi can these Jedi can fall to what is this called? The dark side? And then we can't have this. There's a defect in these Jedi?
Oh, nobody told us about that. Dark side. What the hell are we talking about here? Yes, full audit. We got to have an external investigation into these crazy deranged monks.
Right.
I do like that one thing. Coral. Just turn them over to a bunch of deranged monks. That's a great line. I mean, it really is. And
it is a really good line. Yeah.
It also illustrates how some people in the galaxy perceive the Jedi.
Yes.
As a bunch of deranged mystical monks who have total autonomy to do whatever the F they want. So,
monks.
This whole, certain point of view thing. I know it frustrates a lot of fans, and they don't like seeing the Jedi portrayed in sort of a weird light. But I mean, think about it. If we lived in the Star Wars universe, and we weren't Jedi, what would we think about all of this?
I think we'd think they're a bunch of deranged monks or something like that.
The deranged
monks.
I
was just in New York City last month, and you got those guys, those monks that come up and they want to hand you the keychain, like the little beaded keychain or the pamphlet, and they kind of look like Jedi, but they were deranged monks. So I would probably view them as are they Hare Krishnas or something? I would probably view the Jedi like we view the Hare Krishnas. Like, no, I don't want the flyer.
Okay, all right.
Here's a super chat from Mariana, been with us a long time. She says, good to see RFR kicking, but I'm about to drop my 15th episode of my podcast this weekend. Big milestone. Thanks, J&J, for being a big influence in my podcast journey. Chut, chut. Congratulations, Mariana. 15. All right. Well, keep it going. They say if you get past 7, it's a good shot that you'll go all the way. Tiger Ba says, does this episode hint the beginning of Plagueis novel? Haven't read, saw online this place. This mimics novel location. Oh, this place mimics the novel location, the tortoise, etc. Thoughts, RFR. So yeah, Jim, in the trailer, when we saw this location, I said, oh, I think it's Octu. And you said, no, it's not Octu. I think you're right. I don't think it's Octu. But are you more open to the idea that it could be Octu after seeing this?
Nah, because you don't get those annoying porgs anywhere. You don't hear them. You don't see them. Those things seem to be a staple of that planet. And I'll tell you what, I could go through the rest of my Star Wars fandom without ever hearing a porg make that annoying noise again. That's it. That's all I gotta say. Like, just something about that is like fingernails on the blackboard to me. And I really love a lot of the Star Wars sound design and stuff, but I don't ever want to hear a porg again.
Oh, but you know what, though? This planet does have their own little birds. These little, lovebird things.
Yeah, those with the snouts.
Yeah, these guys.
What were they all about? These weird little creatures.
I did read these are practical. These aren't CG. These are practical little Neil Scanlon designed creatures. And then at one point, this is them. They show them twice. And the first time they show them doing this. And the second time they show them rubbing those snouts together.
Yeah, that's more sexiness.
More
sexiness than I can handle, really. But Osha walked by those little creatures in the ground, and they freeze when she walks by. And I got the same feeling I get when I see, when I'm on a Disney ride and the animatics have broken down, the animatronics, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
The animatronics have broken down and they just freeze. I'm like, oh no, the animatronics broke. But they were just like playing possum, I think, and trying to blend in. So Osha walked by and they went undetected. Because you see, they kind of blend in. they don't. Do they make noise? I didn't hear them make any noise.
I don't know. I don't know why. I'm your sound effects guy tonight. I've got I'm the man of three voices here tonight.
Can I get Basil sniffing again? I love that. That's it.
There you go.
That is legit. That is legit.
All right, let's go to the phones. Let's start with Dave from Boston. Dave, you're on with Rebel Force Radio. We're talking porgs. We're talking rubbing snouts. What's going on?
Chuck, guys. Yeah, we got the sedate bop tonight. Scott's on vacation, and 4th of July.
Well, it's July
Eve,
3rd.
So
Yeah, 4th of July Eve.
Guys.
Yeah, I noticed. I noticed the live streams down just a little bit, but that's natural. July 3rd. I'm sure people just probably worked their last day today.
A lot of fireworks shows tonight.
Oh yeah, of course. We got our own fireworks right here. We got Dave from Boston on the line. He wants to talk Acolyte. So,
well, it's been fun because I've been going back and forth with Dan. Dan's like, well, let's hear your disdain for this episode, and I'm like, I don't dislike this episode. I don't dislike the series per se. Mm-hmm. What I think I dislike is the tone, and I think you brought it up earlier. So are we supposed to feel sympathetic for the Sith now? And the Jedi are a bunch of bureaucrats or the party poopers and everything else. And there's almost like this postmodern view, like there's no real truth. And I think it struck me with the DJ character in The Last Jedi, where he goes, let's see who the owner of this ship is. And they're selling to the good guys and the bad guys.
Okay.
And we kind of have the tone to me is different from the Star Wars, the Lucas monomyth, the journey. So I wanted to touch on that. And I think it's a tonality that I'm having a problem with. And I think another problem is the sequencing. It almost feels like this show might have been shot as I don't know, a complete movie or a miniseries. And I don't know.
That's what Mac was saying, that it was like a movie. It was all shot at once, then they chopped it up. Yeah.
It feels that way. Obviously, with the inclusion of 4 directors throughout the whole season, I mean, there's going to be different shooting moments. So it's not like all just one long shoot, but it kind of is in a way, because it's all just one story. It's not broken down episodically. Which is kind of a key element to creating episodic television, is to make your story episodic. See how many times I could say episodic in this episode.
Yeah, and there's, as we were talking about earlier, there's repeating a lot of things, like Osha or May waking up, or Saul promising that he's going to, tell the truth, and these things happen, and then just the nature of the week to week, it throws the pacing off. I'm just going to throw out and just say that we've been in my house. We've been also binging Andor. I shouldn't say. I'm rewatching. My wife is binging. She hadn't seen Andor when it was originally on, and she's absolutely loving it. And that show, I'm enjoying it even more than I did the first time. I think because I'm just I'm binging a couple episodes a night, and it's It holds up that way more. But I don't remember Dave having the same issue with any of the other shows about how it just doesn't quite flow from week to week. It's the only way I can describe it.
Well, one thing I'm hoping for is, I remember when the Potty Mouth Prophet was on a few weeks ago, he mentioned that there was going to be a Rashomon element. And I think I can see where it's coming, because it seems like we have this May's point of view, Osha's point of view, Saul's point of view, and Qimir's point of view. And maybe we're going to see how the story of what happened with the witches how that all played out that's led to the events that are happening now. That's what I'm hoping for.
Is there enough
And maybe
time
that
for
will
all that,
tie
though?
elements.
All those
Well,
points of view.
Next episodes are maybe an hour each. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, who knows? I always think, oh, maybe we'll get like a big 2-hour rep, but Jim, history has proven that it might be a little longer than the others, the finale, but certainly not a big double the length or something like that. So
yeah. You're talking about how it loses you week to week with it just being one long, expansive story as opposed to your traditional episodic television experience where you get in a full adventure each week. And that's where I think The Mandalorian really excelled, especially in season 1.
Yeah.
Where it gave you an adventure every week that felt self-contained, but still applied to the big story thread that was connecting all the episodes throughout the season.
Right.
It was executed properly as a television show. TV isn't simply taking a movie and chopping it up into several chapters. There's an art to presenting a weekly television show. And it needs to be a little more self-contained, a little more together. I mean, with the old Batman show, they'd have an episode on Tuesday and then one on Wednesday. And you're right there. Same bad time, same bad channel.
Because they knew we couldn't possibly wait. It was the cliffhangers were murder.
Back-to-back nights.
Right.
So that was a better way of doing it, actually. I guess that was really the birth of the binge model, back in the 60s.
Batman 66, baby.
Yeah, you just get it there twice a week. Boom.
Well, Dave, anything else before we let you go? I don't want anybody giving me crap about hanging up on you here.
No, I'll make that's God's job. Now I'll make sure Bob is back, bringing it full force next week. And
okay.
I hope Blake's coming up with his takes.
Oh, I think he might be.
Fourth, guys. And
thanks, buddy.
Yep.
Thank you very much. Dave from Boston. Love it. Thank you, Dave. Yeah, as he mentioned, I think we've got him here on the call. Let me see if I can get it. Oh, let's do it.
Time for Blake's Take.
There he is. Blake calling in. Hey, Blake.
Hey, chut-chut.
Chut-chut, buddy.
Chut-chut.
Happy 4th of July.
Happy 4th of July to you guys, too.
Thank you. Are you going to see any fireworks tonight or tomorrow? Fireworks should be starting, at least in my neck of the woods, in the next 15, 20 minutes or so. They usually around 10 o'clock, you going to see any fireworks tonight or tomorrow?
We'll probably see some tomorrow, like outside our house. They go off all around us. There's like no point of buying fireworks to send them off because we can just watch them around us.
Yeah, let the neighbors buy them.
He's in the middle of the war zone right now. Shells are exploding left and right of him. He doesn't need to go anywhere.
All right, Blake, lay it on us. What do you got here? I see a note that you want to talk about Saul and what he might be up to.
Ooh.
Okay. This is like the most top-notch thing that I feel like is gonna happen. If it does, it's gonna be crazy.
Okay.
So I think, since he's talking to May on the ship, he's gonna learn, like May is eventually gonna let out where the Sith is, whatever Disney wants us to call him, the stranger.
Okay.
She's gonna eventually, but she's been to the planet before.
You think so?
She's eventually
Do we know this?
gonna just let it. Yeah, it was in one of the earlier episodes.
Yeah,
he
she
stands
does beat
there
up.
with the lightsaber.
You're right.
And it looks
Yes,
like
you're
Jack
right.
Planet.
Yep. It was in the first episode, I believe. Yep. Good callback.
Yeah. So I think that she's eventually gonna let out where it is after Soul explains everything, and then Soul is gonna go there, but Osha is already gonna basically fully be turned to the dark side almost. Because as we can see in the end of this episode, she puts on the helmet, follows what it is, and it seems like she's really going to the dark side. And I feel like this is probably all going to happen in the season finale because next episode is going to be a flashback.
Yeah.
Because we always got to have a flashback with this.
I love Blake's already getting cynical. He's 12. He's already a little sad. We got a flashback coming up.
Been there, done that.
Well, the last flashback was boring. We got the power of one, the power of two, the power of many.
Hey, Leslie, a 12-year-old is making fun of your show. No, you're right. That wasn't Star Wars' best moment. So you're thinking Showdown. You're thinking Showdown, Stranger and Osha versus Saul and May.
Well, I think that, it's going to start off fighting. He's going to make it there, try to get Osha, but Osha's already going to be fully turned. So Osha is going to kill Saul. And then...
Really?
Wait, hold. Hold, just let me rewind real quick.
Mm-hmm.
Saul is going to kill the stranger. And then Osha will get mad and kill Saul.
So all that's left then are the twins. Then what happens?
Yeah.
Season 2.
I didn't think that far.
I will say, Blake, I agree with you. I don't think Saul's going to make it out of this season.
Really?
But I'm not really convinced that Darth Qimir is going to. You know what? Now that I think of it, because there is a Sith Lord.
Oh, no. I just had a terrible thought. Oh, God.
The apprentice will fall this season. So, yeah, I think I'm on board with you there, Darth Blake. We're going to see the death of Saul and the death of Qimir.
No, we can't.
Yeah.
And possibly the death of one of the twins as well. I predict Osha will kill May. But she won't mean to do it. It'll be an accident, and she will grieve.
Well, hold on, guys. Do we know? We got to understand the gravity of what we're saying here. We've got to draw a line between these Sith, and Palpatine. So, are we saying that May or Osha is going to be essentially the equivalent of a Plagueis?
No, I don't see her, either of them, ascending to the role of a Sith Lord at all.
So we're not going to meet the Sith Lord at all here.
I think we might. I think the Sith Lord will become revealed after Qimir dies. Then the Sith Lord will be revealed.
I think that we're going to see Plagueis. Like, as soon as he's dead, as soon as Chimir's dead and Soul dies after, then Plagueis is going to show up.
Yeah. And then Plagueis, let's have, wait a minute, hold on, Blake. I want Plagueis to create one of those Sith kebabs through both twins and be done with them. There. But they're all dead then.
What about season 2?
There
I guess you
go,
could have
it's all Saul.
All new characters in season 2.
All new, yes.
It's like Real World.
Except
World
for
Big Brother, get a whole new cast. Except for Mog and Vernestra.
Mog will be back. Mog will be back. And then there's Mog.
Mog will show up on that planet. He's like Inspector Gadget, this guy. He's terrible. He's Maxwell Smart. He has no clue. He's the worst detective ever. Shows up on that planet, and he comes up with some cockamamie theory about what must have happened when he sees all the dead bodies and carnage around. Mog. Oh, God. All right. Blake, hey, buddy, thank you so much for the call. Have a wonderful 4th of July, okay? Great theories.
Okay.
All right,
you guys
buddy.
Too.
Take care. All right. Thanks for calling. We'll talk to you next week. Who else do we got here? Wait a minute. Did I actually answer this? I don't think I meant to, but I think Rich from Long Island is on the line. Rich?
Hi, guys.
Hey. Chut, buddy.
I get to follow the great Blake.
You do. You do.
Tough act to follow.
Yes.
Pressure is on,
actually,
man.
Yeah, right, exactly. I mean, he kind of brought up something I talked to Tyler about, which was I'm thinking that Darth Playa is going to turn Osha to the dark side, and she will be the acolyte.
Darth Playa, I like that. I like that. So you're saying that Osha is the acolyte. Osha's going to be the apprentice.
I mean, she's been like a goody two-shoes the whole season, so she'd go through the biggest change, I think, by the end of this show.
It would be a big surprise. I think the bigger surprise would be Saul to be revealed as the Jedi Master. Our buddy FJ DeSanto says that the show doesn't have the guts to do that, but it might have the guts to turn Osha completely. I tell you what, there's a lot more believability in Osha's turn as a heel than there ever was with that weird May turn about going and telling Kelnaka. She doesn't even have a relationship with Kelnaka. Like, wasn't it was Osha when they showed the flashback, wasn't it Osha that was chilling with Kelnaka as he was working on the engine or whatever it was? It wasn't May. She doesn't have any kind of connection to the Wookiee that I remember.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of weird.
And it just seems like everything that Qimir says, I mean, he's very smooth. He always knows the right thing to say to her, the other line she has.
Oh, yeah.
And she seems to be buying what he's saying.
Yeah, she definitely does. Yeah, works every time with Qimir. Yeah, he is definitely smooth, man.
Now, can I bring up one connection I can also make to Empire Strikes Back, I think?
Yeah, please.
So, cortosis. Now, I was glad that they explained what cortosis was in this episode, because I felt like it was going to turn into another Ahsoka where, you have to know everything to understand what's going on. So I'm glad they talked about cortosis. So it made me think back to Empire Strikes Back when Luke and Darth Vader were fighting on Bespin. Luke hits Vader in the shoulder with a hard hit, and nothing happens to Vader. Just some sparks fly off. Now, I know his lightsaber doesn't get deactivated, but is this like some form of cortosis that Vader has, as part of his armor?
I don't think so. I mean, I think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier when we were talking about Vernestra's lightsaber whip. There are ways that you can deliver a non-lethal blow with a lightsaber. And I'm not saying that's what Luke was doing in that situation. I mean, maybe that's the best Luke could do to defend himself is sneak one in on Vader.
Yeah, because otherwise,
for Vader, but I don't think there's any element about Darth Vader that was resistant to the lightsaber. Maybe just the fact that he had the mechanics, the cybernetics. That's
it does sort of seem to not bounce off the pauldron on the shoulder pad. It does. It doesn't have a lot of effect. But Jim, I think there was. I don't know if it was Family Guy or it was Robot Chicken where they did this bit where if you drop the lightsaber, it just keeps falling, through. So I think there's got to be, ways. I think you're right. I think there's certain ways to wield it, to strike with it that are going to create that fatal blow or that cut through. Because otherwise it would be, how would Jedi shave with it? Which we know that they do. You can cut your hair with it. We saw that. I do like the reference, though. I was feeling that this episode in particular was giving a lot of OT vibes. I thought, obviously, with the seduction going on, and I felt there were some shades of Yoda, and some of the lines that he was giving were very Palpatine-esque in some ways. So, yeah, man, glad to hear it. Anything else from you, Rich?
No, I'm just glad that, there are like little snippets that come from the original trilogy and the sequel trilogy with the Kylo Ren music and even prequel music.
Oh, the Kylo Ren music was everywhere this week. That motif, everywhere. Even I noticed
I don't know,
it.
Is there is Qimir going to be a Knight of Ren, or something like that?
That's another theory. I think for me, the problem with that is that this show was promised to be about the Sith, not about the Knights of Ren. Mm-hmm. So then you got to introduce a real Sith if he's a fake Sith, which maybe they will.
Right.
Jim, you were kind of subscribing to this idea that maybe Qimir was an imposter, a phony
yes.
Sith.
Yeah, but I've given up on that.
Oh, okay.
just via looking at interviews with the filmmakers and stuff like that, and also just acknowledging the information that's being presented to us in the show. Nothing, because he does sort of resemble the original Ren, Knight of Ren.
Yeah, right. The helmet.
The helmet.
He was very fond of being topless as well. Very fond. But he was like all scarred up.
Wait. You're talking. Okay. Do we see him in the film, or is this a
No?
This is a comic book character?
Comic books and Lego canon. And
Lego
canon.
cannon. Oh no,
Yeah.
Mac has hit the wall, folks. Mac is quoting Lego cannon. Holy crap! I never thought I would see the day.
It's over. Star Wars is officially dead.
Mac has had to reach into the Lego bin and pull out himself some Star Wars canon. Oh God,
it's true, all of it.
To find a shirtless Knight of Ren. Wow.
Yes.
All right, Dave. Sorry, Rich. Thank you very much. Thanks for the call, buddy.
Thanks, Rich.
No problem. Happy 4th, guys.
Hey, same to you, pal.
Let's
go.
That's where Marcoux is from, Long Island.
Oh, how's Marcoux doing these days?
I put an emergency call into John Marcoux. I'm like, dude, you got to watch the Acolyte and break this stuff down. Fandom is losing their minds right now.
Is he on the job? You think we might get it at some point?
Yeah. I think he's going to dive in. So,
oh, good. That'll be great.
Hopefully sooner than later.
The mythological blueprint of the Acolyte with Marcoux.
He's got his hands full. But I think there's a lot of material for him to dive into with the type of analysis he's made famous. And I'd love to see where it goes.
I think he's going to dig this.
I think he is too. I have a feeling.
Well, he's a big Bruce Lee fan, so I'm sure that Li Jung-jae is going to light his fire a little bit.
Well, he's not really a martial artist per se.
Oh, I thought he was.
No, I don't think
he was.
I don't know. I might be talking out of school because I don't know. The only thing I know about the guy is Squid Game, and he largely played a goof in that show.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah, this is a vastly different role for him.
Oh.
And this is his first ever English-speaking role. Squid Game is all in Japanese. And, or is it Japanese or is it Korean?
I think it's, I don't know. I don't want to say. I've never watched the show. I hear it's great, but I haven't watched it. All I know is they have to carve cookies.
It's very original. That's what I like about it. And, you follow along with the subtitles throughout the whole series, but that to me doesn't diminish anything as far as the storytelling goes. And yes, Squid Game is a South Korean television series.
Got it. Okay.
South Korea. Yes. I'm glad I corrected myself.
Who else do we got? Let's go to Peter. Peter's calling in from Seattle.
Hey, check.
Hey, Peter. I'm sorry, man. I got to put you back on hold.
Why?
Because we've got a Patreon waiting, and Patreons always get.
Come on, whatever. Let Peter go. You already opened the door.
All right. We're gonna Ryan. Stay on the line. All right, Peter. What do you got?
You owe me one, Peter.
All right. So you guys kind of touched base on that. I'll make it quick. So
no, it's okay. We got time.
You guys kind of touched on it. The scars on Qimir's back and the lightsaber whip that Vernaster has. So first I was thinking about him being her apprentice. But now I'm thinking more like she helped getting him out of the Jedi Academy or whatever. If it turned and there was a big fight or something like that.
Oh, maybe she ousted him.
And also, yeah,
okay,
or helped in a battle. He went against the Jedi. So that was my little theory about his scars. But I also wanted to mention that so he didn't use the force heal on Osha, and I kind of like that because it gives him more of a light side power.
You're
saying? Wait, now hold up. Did he force heal Osha? Because she had a bandage on her wound, and if he healed her, her wound would be non-existent.
It doesn't make the blood disappear. He closed the wound, but there was still blood.
I don't know. I don't know if he did. I still, it's so debatable because he rolls her over, and it does sort of look like that moment when Kylo Ren was wounded in The Rise of Skywalker and Rey healed him. It looked kind of like that, and he sort of did hold his hand over her.
He closes his hand, like he squeezes his hand closed, like he's closing the wound, and the wound does close.
Well, I thought he was just rolling her over.
Well, he does that first.
And then he holds his hand over her after he puts the blanket
closes his hand. No, before the blanket.
No, the very last thing you see before it cuts the credits, he puts the blanket on her and he holds the hand like this.
No, that's not when it happens. That's not when it happens.
I'm not saying that's when it happened or when it didn't. I'm just telling you what happened at the end of that episode. You can go look it up. He puts a blanket on her and he holds his hand over her.
Okay, he does that. Aaron Clark is saying he didn't heal her. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Rewatch the episode.
But then why does she need a bandage? And the bandage is covered in blood.
Yeah,
if because he healed her, she wouldn't be bleeding anymore.
That's not true. You can bleed through your stitches.
Listen,
there are 4 stitches.
Of using the force to heal someone if they're going to still be bleeding after you've used the force to heal them.
Because we're talking about the Acolyte. Nothing makes sense.
The Swank has thrown the rule book out the window.
You're trying to get me to explain the Acolyte? I'm going to... When this is done,
he was more feeling if she was still alive, or maybe holding her deep sleep, so he could bring her back to the planet.
How did she get wounded in the first place?
That's a good question.
She was force pushed.
Yeah,
they never showed her like landing on a stump or something. I mean, it just looked like she was just pushed backwards. How'd she end up with this big scar? It looked like a lightsaber wound.
Yeah.
I'm going to hang up and listen for my answer.
All right, Peter, thanks for calling, buddy.
Thanks,
appreciate
Peter.
it. Oh, my God. Thank you. The wheels are coming off. All right, Ryan from West Virginia, Patreon member. Sorry, I got a little lazy and lax in my reading of the notes here from the great Tyler Page. So you're on with us.
Chut. No, that's perfectly okay because that was that conversation went 0 to 60 really quickly. But no, I wanted to thank you all. A couple months ago, you all had played one of my voicemails I left you on the show, and I was an idiot and didn't leave my name or where I was from. But what I wanted to talk to you all about is kind of similar to the voicemail. I've noticed that with the series between Mandalorian, Ahsoka, and the Acolyte, they're starting to turn when the story flips and goes full future story and action. And in the Mandalorian, it was later in the series between like episode 6 and 7. Season 3 was episode 7 when we saw Moff Gideon on the hologram.
Mm-hmm.
And then now we've got it. Episode 4 is all story. Episode 3 is all story. And in Ahsoka, in the Mandalorian season 3, we had filler episodes in this time frame. We had the big birds in Mandalorian season 3, the pirate battle, Lizzo. And so I think they've changed it, and I think they're changing it in the right direction. They're just kind of dragging it out a little bit. But it's full story, and I just wanted to see if anyone else noticed that.
No
and then
filler. Yeah.
I have a conspiracy.
Okay.
I think potentially Qimir's master wasn't Venestra. It might have been Cal Naka. And the only reason I have that thought process is because why else would he have tracked him down for May that quickly? And so maybe Venestra had something to do with kind of the turning. And he was the one who got to kill Cal Naka. Just a thought. I still think it's Venestra, but that popped in my head last night, and I thought, ooh, okay.
Well, hey, does it count if, all right, this rule of two business, let's say I'm a Sith apprentice, and I got my Sith Lord. He lives down the street, and instead of me taking the risk and killing my Sith Lord so I can ascend, does it fit in the rules? Can I have my acolyte? Can I have my apprentice in training bump off my master for me?
Ooh, I don't think it works that way.
Oh, it doesn't work? It doesn't work that way? Would that be like a cowardly Sith thing?
So when I meant master, I meant when he was a Padawan. Essentially, he was a Padawan, and Cal Naka was his master.
Oh, I see.
And maybe that's why Cal Naka's only been MIA for a year or two, or however long it had been.
Yeah, why is Cal Naka exiled? That's the weirdness. He was sent to that planet Kofar by the Jedi. But it also seems like he's being portrayed as a loner who made the decision himself to live alone and isolated.
Right.
So that still is kind of a gray area. What was Cal Naka doing out there? And it looked like he was doing some sort of research into the witches of Brendok because he had those coven symbols on the wall. We still don't understand what that's all about. So maybe there's some sort of, I don't know, there's something special about Kofar to the witches, even though they're non-existent at this point. Did all witches die? That's the other thing.
Yeah,
Did
right.
every witch that lived there die? Or were there any survivors outside of Osha and May? I don't know. Looked like they had about 20 people living there tops. Looked like a big place for only 20 people, but
it sure did. I mean, they had all kinds of infrastructure and stuff. I mean, they had a lot going on with those 20 people. You would think.
How do they even maintain the infrastructure with only 20 people? I don't get it.
Well, I like what you're saying, Ryan, about the possibility, because we know Qimir says it was a long, long time ago, so we can assume that he's of advanced age, but Wookiees are themselves very long-lived creatures, so Cal Naka could be hundreds of years old, right? How old was Chewie?
True. Yeah, Chewie was 200.
Yeah.
So at the beginning of A New Hope, and that's said to be young for a Wookiee.
Yeah.
Wookiee lived for a very long time.
Wow. All right, Ryan, anything else you want to lay on us? You're the last caller, man, so the floor is yours.
No, I don't. My only other thought with the show, I'm loving the way it's going so far. I am glad we're not getting a Sabine-esque, repeat of Ahsoka, where every 10 minutes we're hearing about how she was being trained by Ahsoka, or we see her not be able to use the Force, or something like that. Every once in a while we'll hear Brendok or what happened to him, but they're shying away from, we forget about it almost sometimes. Like, I completely forgot about it in episode 4 until the end. I was just watching people get shish kebabbed and decapitated after the shish kebab. And
yeah, but
so,
you know what?
Yeah,
The new Sabine bitching in this show is May or Osha waking up. or Saul promising, I will tell you everything, I promise.
That is true. That is true. But I'm living with it, with how the show's going. So far.
We're living with it too, man. That's what we're doing. We're just talking about it. It's the Star Wars that's coming to us every week, and that's what we're doing. We're taking the bitter with the sweet and having fun and having a lot of great conversation. Thanks to guys like you. Thanks also for being a Patreon member. Really appreciate that, Ryan. Thanks, buddy. All right, there goes Ryan. I think, Tyler, is there one? I see one person left. Nope. That's it. We got a clean switchboard. We do have a few super chats here we want to get to. This is Benny Bingo. Benny Bingo says once it was revealed that the helmet blocks all vision and he has to rely on the Force for everything, it makes me take Qimir way more seriously. Now seeing he is extremely strong with the Force.
Yeah. I mean, that helmet does not offer much in the way of peripheral vision or straightforward vision.
Well, there are
or
slits,
any
though,
vision.
right? So it's not total deprivation. There are eye slits. When she puts it on, you see it's like Batman shaped, like little triangles or something.
Yeah. So it cuts off all your senses except just a little bit of vision.
But yeah, there's no question. I mean, this guy, look what he did. He killed, you had the body count, Jim. It was like, how many? Do you remember?
7, 8 if you want to count Kelnaka, which you probably should. But
Probably.
again, we still don't know Qimir killed Kelnaka. And I'm not letting that little Basil off the hook so quickly. I just think it's very suspicious that he was the only one there.
You know how they say elephants are terrified of little mice? Maybe Wookiees are scared to death of like little rats or something.
That could be.
So
it could be. Chewie was skittish around certain things like, trash compactor monsters for starters.
Well, who wouldn't be?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. But, Wookiees can be skittish.
Here's Fart Party with a little clinking glasses. Cheers. Cheers to you, Fart Party. Thank you very much. Rich Brendel calling it now. Maud is the grandfather of Akmina.
Mog.
Yeah. Mog is the grandfather. Oh, I love the symmetry here because you've got Akmina played by B. Arthur. And B. Arthur also played Maud. All right. We're groaning on that one, Rich. We're groaning. Chris Have says, show is better with a rewatch. Have some fun with it. And RFR #1. Thanks, RFR crew, and happy 4th. Tip a few. We will. And have started already. So that is, I think that's...
It's time for...
Sorry about that. I hit the wrong button. That is a great place to sort of wrap things up, I think, this week. On the ACOLYTE After Show. Of course, I do want to thank our buddy Tyler. Hey, who's this? Wait, this isn't just Tyler Page. Who else we got going on here?
Nah, this is my host family for the night, the Barry Harmon household. So he can't talk to you guys because of our
Barry's
audio
doing
stuff.
his best Basil impression right here. Good to see you, Barry. Thanks for hosting our call screener so that he can screen calls for us. And I guess congratulations, by the way. Everybody should congratulate Tyler. He's moved house, as they say. And but the internet is still not running as smoothly as we need it to be for this very, very technical and highly sophisticated operation here at Rebel Force Radio. So Barry is providing safe haven. Thank you.
Thanks, Barry.
You know what? We'll let you both weigh in here. I think we covered this episode pretty thoroughly between us and our great callers. Thank you again, Tyler, for screening them. But is there anything we missed? A lot of dialogue in this episode, very dialogue heavy.
Barry's theory is that Qimir was the apprentice to Vernestra Rowe. I can't really expand on that other than that. So, but
Barry obviously can't talk. Is that
that's the whole shtick here. But Peter Weiser mentioned something in the chat. He thinks that we're not seeing Qimir in his final form, which I think maybe he's a changeling, and that's he's presenting as someone younger, and that'd be a cool tie-in to the prequels.
We've never seen Basil and Qimir in the same place at the same time.
Oh man, he is not letting it go.
But Basil is on like some starship heading to Coruscant, and
Qimir
is on some unnamed planet. So that kind of makes the theory fall apart. Force projection.
Got to solve
All
for
right,
everything.
so now Basil is practicing some of the most advanced Jedi arts you can think of.
Forget about it.
All right. Well, Tyler, Barry, good to see you guys. Thanks very much. I'm sure we'll be seeing Tyler next week. I don't know about Barry. We'll see how this whole move goes. We might have to do it. But I really appreciate Tyler's dedication. Truly, nothing stops this guy. Nothing stopped this guy from being here every week when we're doing one of these after shows. It's really amazing. So thank you very much, buddy. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, guys. See ya.
All right, Jimmy Mack, final thoughts. Teach, corrupt.
Final thoughts on Teach and Corrupt, episode 6 of the Acolyte. Here we go. I noticed that I think it's the same starship that Saul is on. That's the same starship that they used to originally visit Brendok when they tested the twins, because May has a flashback as she's walking through the hold of the ship. She hears Indara's voice, remembers being tested on board that same ship when she was 8 years old. So I don't think anybody pointed that out, but that's what I believe. Watching Basil with Pip, trying to plug him in. It's like anyone who suffered plugging in a USB feels the pain. That's all I got to say. It ain't that easy. How many times you got to flip those things over before you finally get it right? And it's weird. Basil seems to communicate with Pip, but we don't really understand to what end. Qimir goes for a swim. Is that the first swimming Sith ever? I kind of think it was. I don't remember any Mon Cal Sith or any Quarren Sith or any Sith going in for a swim, but Qimir does. It's interesting. Qimir says, your anger betrays your thoughts. And so that's kind of a callback to Darth Vader saying, your thoughts betray you, your feelings for them, meaning your friends, to Luke, your feelings for them are strong. And then also Obi-Wan says, be mindful of your thoughts. They betray you. He said that to Anakin in Attack of the Clones. Now the anger is betraying the thoughts. So you kind of see how things twist from dark side to light side in a matter of thinking, you know? Your thoughts betray you to a dark side, and that's a Jedi thing. But your anger betraying your thoughts, I still got to workshop that a little bit. I got to think about that a little bit more. What else? Basil and May. Oh, God. When May discovers Basil, or the other way around, Basil discovers May, he, like, attacks her and starts rubbing up and down against her leg, like Humpy the Ewok. I thought it was the big return of Humpy the Ewok. But that scene didn't really go anywhere after that. I found it interesting. A theme that was presented in The Mandalorian is repeated here about Jedi. Without training, their connection to the Force fades away. And Qimir says, well, that's just how the Jedi approach it. There's different ways. And Osha reveals she failed out of the Jedi. She failed. As opposed to being kicked out or exiled, she actually like flunked the exam and had to turn in her lightsaber or something. Well, I think we'll learn more about that. Vernestra Rowe gets sick in hyperspace. That's a callback to the High Republic novels. When she was younger, she would travel through hyperspace and get really disoriented and have these intense force visions that she couldn't temper down. She couldn't control them. And it was, like I said, very disorienting for her. And that's why Mog said that Vern gets sick in hyperspace. On board Saul's ship, Basil is crawling around in the, quote, access conduits. BS, those are Jeffrey tubes from Star Trek. Come on. So Trek. And it didn't really have anything to do with the story at all. I'm still at the end of this episode not sure whether or not Saul knew that Basil was on board the ship. Was he being a stowaway? It seemed like he was hiding the whole time, which I find
what
very...
What was going on with Basil? It's like he had no purpose in this episode.
And he's like hiding, crawling around in these Jeffries tubes and staying out of, everyone's way. But Wasn't he a welcome passenger on board that very same ship traveling to Kofar in the first place? Why would he have to hide his presence? I just was very uncertain about that. And, there's a lot of uncertainties about what's going to happen for the rest of the season. Osha put the helmet on. Does she fall to the dark side just by merely putting the helmet on? Will Osha hook up with Qimir? Why is Saul so shifty? These are all just questions that need to be answered in the last 2 episodes, along with what really happened on Brendok to the witches. Why did Torben take the poison? Why was Kelnaka exiled by the Jedi Order? And why did he have those coven symbols on his wall? Who is Qimir, the master of the apprentice? I think we're all beginning to believe he truly is just the apprentice, because the apprentice takes on the acolyte. And what is the truth that Saul has been hiding and teasing us with countless numbers of times over 6 episodes? And then there's Mog. Uncompromising, enterprising, anything but tranquilizing. Right on, Mog. New gun rate, not in this episode.
All right, that's going to do it this week on Rebel Force Radio. We'll be back next week covering episode 7. We'll also have a brand new episode of the Rebel Force Radio Weekly Podcast for you next week. But until then, everyone have a wonderful holiday, a fantastic 4th of July. For those of you in the United States, for those of you not, have a great Thursday. I think that's it. Thank you again to Tyler. Thank you, Barry, for housing Tyler. Thanks for all the great callers, all the super chats. You guys are just ridiculously generous and kind and all of that. So we love you all. And we'll see you next time for more Acolyte After Show from here on Rebel Force Radio. So until then, I'm Jason.
I'm Jimmy Mack.
And remember,
the Force will be with you, always.